Yuki Tsunoda has had a rough year. He's been through it all, trying to save up his points and score wins. Even though our boy pulled through, the effort completely drained him of his energy. And not just Tsunoda, but the AlphaTauri team has completely been on the ropes. This year, their points were scarce and the races were fierce every time. Let's get into what AlphaTauri had to express for themselves. Starting off, Yuki Tsunoda had a pretty depressing season. Yuki Tsunoda conceded that the AlphaTauri squad had not had the finest season in 2022, but he believed that things were improving and that they would be stronger the following year. The revision to F1's rules and regulations that went into effect at the start of the season appeared to put the team on the back foot, despite the team previously finishing in the top 10 and winning the 2020 Italian Grand Prix. However, they have come away with no points for 12 of the 22 races on the calendar this year, dropping them to 9th place in the constructors standings, down from 6th in 2021. Tsunoda finished 17th in the Drivers' Championship with only 12 points for the year, with teammate Pierre Gasly in 14th, and remarked that his second season had been difficult. It's been a difficult year for the entire squad. The Japanese driver admitted that he couldn't even finish 8th in the championship. On the bright side, though, he also claimed that they learned a lot from it. Tsunoda nearly missed out on scoring any points in his final race of 2022, finishing in the 11th position. The rubber was terrific for the last 6 or 7 laps, he said of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix season finale. Tsunoda was also candid in saying that his left tire abruptly dropped and that he couldn't keep up with the fronts during his race in the GP. Next, Tsunoda is positive that he and his team can bounce back. Yuki Tsunoda has seized the positives from a difficult second season with AlphaTauri, saying that the team would recover together after falling from 6th to 9th in the constructor standings under F1's new technical restrictions. Before the sports regulations were changed, AlphaTauri was a steady point-scoring operation, with notable recent victories including Pierre Gasly's victory at the 2020 Italian Grand Prix and another podium finish in Azerbaijan last year. However, the 2022 season saw them primarily relegated to modest points finishes, and after barely losing out to Haas, the Italian team finished 10th in the championship, ahead of only Williams. Moving on, the Japanese native has a lot to learn from this year. Despite the disappointment, which was summed up by a frustrating run to 11th position in the Abu Dhabi finale, Tsunoda believes he learned a lot during his sophomore F1 season, and he paid homage to the departing teammate Pierre Gasly. Tsunoda claimed after the Yas Marina race that the tire was fine for the final 6 or 7 circuits, but it deteriorated, and he couldn't keep up with the fronts. He said he thought there was a strong opportunity to score points, but the tempo was too fast. Despite his disappointment, Tsunoda took the opportunity to congratulate his teammate Pierre Gasly, who is joining Alpine for the upcoming season. Tsunoda is now focusing on recuperating with the team over the winter break and returning fighting for his 3rd term in the sport, having contributed 12 points to AlphaTauri's tally in 2022, compared to the 23 recorded by Alpine-bound Gasly. Further, despite everything, AlphaTauri retained Tsunoda. Tsunoda, 22, made his Formula One debut with AlphaTauri in 2021 and was largely anticipated to be retained by the team for a 3rd season next year. The Japanese driver stated at the end of last month that his future was contingent on things in the background, but any doubts about his seat with AlphaTauri were addressed on Thursday when the team revealed he would remain with the squad in 2023. Tsunoda had not scored a point since the Spanish Grand Prix in May, as AlphaTauri struggles to compete with the top midfield teams consistently. Tsunoda's recent performances, according to team president Franz Tost, were clear evidence of a steep learning curve that proves he deserves a seat in F1, and that a 3rd season would be critical to his development. Following the confirmation in June that Pierre Gasly will remain in Faenza, AlphaTauri now has a complete lineup for 2023. However, with Gasly drawing interest from Alpine as a replacement for Fernando Alonso, Red Bull is reportedly looking into possibilities for the 2nd seat at AlphaTauri next year. Red Bull advisor Helmut Marko met with 2022 Formula 2 champion Nick de Vries in Australia last week to explore a prospective 2023 drive, after giving up on trying to recruit IndyCar race winner Colton Herta due to a lack of a super license. Red Bull has made it plain that it would only release Gasly to Alpine if it had another driver lined up to replace Tsunoda. Also, there are other potential candidates lined up. AlphaTauri also has Gasly under contract for next year, but the seasoned Frenchman's position as a significant figure in the driver market remains unknown. Alpine, which is owned by Renault, has expressed interest in hiring him to replace world champion Fernando Alonso, who is joining Aston Martin, but Red Bull would only allow Gasly to go if there is a credible alternative. One such possibility was American Colton Herta, but the IndyCar racer lacked the required super license. And Dutch driver Nick de Vries, who finished 10th in his debut for Williams at Monza last month as a stand-in for Alex Albon, has been in contact with both Alpine and Red Bull. Despite everything, Tsunoda is still backed up by AlphaTauri, and we think that's huge. The Jap should pull up his socks though, because there's tough competition right around the next bend. Now, AlphaTauri's chief engineer wants fewer Red Bull parts next year. The AlphaTauri AT04 will be quite different from the Red Bull RB19 next season, with the junior team focused on buying fewer parts to allow them more creative creative freedom. The numerous parts of Formula One vehicles are classified as listed parts. The team owns the IP entirely. Transferable components, the team owns the IP but can supply the part to other teams. Standard supply and open source. AlphaTauri draws largely from Red Bull's transferable parts list, also known as non-listed parts in the past, utilizing the senior team's suspension, gearbox, and hydraulics. However, while this saves money, it has a negative impact on the design of the AlphaTauri automobile. Instead of having a rear suspension created expressly for it, the team must design the chassis around the suspension that is provided. That implies less design freedom, which head engineer Jonathan Eddles hopes to restore with the AT04 next year. Eddles stated to Auto, Motor, and Sport that they would like to establish their aerodynamics based on certain sections below the vehicle. Up next, there are very few things in AlphaTauri's 2022 campaign. The 2022 season was one of AlphaTauri's most dismal in recent years, with the team finishing second from last in the Constructors' Championship. Points were few and there was no podium in sight, with Pierre Gasly finishing outside the top 3 for the first time in 3 seasons. The team claimed dependability concerns as a source of their problems early in the tournament, with Franz Tost claiming they were 2 steps behind and just couldn't catch up. It remains to be seen whether having more AlphaTauri parts on the AT04 will benefit the team, as there is a lot to be said about design freedom, especially in today's era of ground effect aerodynamics, where the entire car must be designed with vortexes in the floor and the airflow they create in mind. The squad also has a new lineup, with Gasly departing for Alpine and Nick de Vries taking his place. The Dutchman is approaching his 28th birthday, but this will be his maiden season on the Formula One grid, leaving the team with little experience to draw from. Despite AlphaTauri's hopes for a brighter 2023, the Faenza-based squad may have a more tough time. Finally, AlphaTauri is limited in their car parts for next season. The preset rules let teams purchase specific customer parts from rival teams, which Red Bull-owned AlphaTauri has typically taken full use of. However, by instituting the budget restriction, F1 hoped to encourage teams to manufacture their own parts by making the purchase of rival parts less financially appealing. However, AlphaTauri's head engineer Jonathan Eddles claims that there is another reason why the Faenza-based firm is now considering manufacturing more of its own parts. The sibling team has produced some of Red Bull's most famous drivers, including Max Verstappen and Sebastian Vettel. On the other hand, AlphaTauri has proved extremely helpful to Red Bull in areas like part development and information channeling. This may alter beginning next year. It's going to be an exciting year next year, when we see both Tsunoda trying yet again to find a top spot for his team in the upcoming races, and how AlphaTauri molds themselves around the decision to purchase fewer parts. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think retaining Tsunoda is a wise decision? Would he live up to the hope of getting better in the next season? Let us know in the comments below. It'd be awesome if you gave this video a thumbs up, and please don't forget to subscribe for more scrumptious videos like this. See you in the next one.